Well, hello there. I'm Howard Forder of ForderLearnToFly, and today we finally get hands-on testing of the new Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Now, we've all seen some of these clips as teasers to the new sim, and the anticipation is killing us all. In my recent travels to the Grand Canyon to participate with Microsoft in a preview event, we covered a lot of ground. First, let's look briefly at some of my live footage. Then I'll take you into some recorded interviews with managers and developers of the sim.
Hydraulic system, fuel systems, electrical systems. They work hand in hand with their technology as well, so that it kind of.
Then I get into the sim and take you through the setup and the testing in some walkthroughs. Finally, we cover new technical reveals that answer a lot of questions we have been speculating. I'm really excited about FS 2024 now, and I wish I had more time to really shake it out. Here are the top 5 questions that have been asked and that I took with me to this preview event. First, why a new simulator when we have been getting free sim updates, world updates, new planes and flight models? Second, will all my planes and scenery work with the new sim? Good question, isn't it? Biggest fear on everybody's minds. Third, what are some technical highlights of the new Flight Simulator 2024, which many are calling FS 2024 now? Fourth, how many people use the current FS 2020 today? And do we expect everyone to move to FS 2024 in November? Finally, fifth, the game versus sim question that's on all the forums from simulation pilots on other sim platforms. Is it a game? Is it a sim? Maybe it's both. I'm excited to reveal this all to you in this session as we go along. Bear with me, be patient, find the parts that you really want, come back later and pick up the other parts if you will. This has been a joy to put together. It's been a long haul. The production of this video alone and collecting all the assets took more than 24 hours in total. And so I'm glad to do that. It was only a week ago we were there, but it seems so long ago already. Let's dive in and let's take a look at what I've gathered for this new sim. So the first question, why a new simulator? During our interviews with Seb and Jorg and the rest of the team, we got some answers here. First of all, a thin client. The new simulator is going to be a thin client, meaning very little hard disk space. They'll keep the minimum specs low. They'll reduce install time because of it and only download what you need. And you'll also see a reduced internet usage. And it's interesting that those goals would be hard to meet. Reducing install time, keeping minimum space low, but also reducing internet speed. Amazing. Will all my planes and scenery work in the new sim? Very good question. You can see by this diagram here, it's a bit blurry. It's the closest thing I've got. I had to blow it up. I'll get a better resolution one later. But what I've highlighted here is whether it works in 2024 or whether your library content would work in 2020. That's what you're seeing on the screen there. The upper 3 are newer versions, and it's up to the developers to opt in to make them take advantage of the new features. A lot of them will. They want people to buy their stuff in the new sim. You'll see this going to be overwhelmingly changed over, but it's up to the developers of each of the content, that's for sure. Notice here the highlight here, I've also brought up a picture that was very small, kind of blurry, but it's okay. Automatically access owned 2020 and 2024 content in my library with a few exceptions. Take a look at that small number at the bottom. Small number of MSFS 2020 content may not be compatible with MSF 2024. That's playing it safe. They can't guarantee every developer's content will work. So that's something to think about. Coming to the 2024 marketplace. Now here's an interesting screen. I'm going to highlight a few things, but over on the left you see new layout, new categories, new filters, and a new rating system. I've always relied on the rating system. and advised others to take a look at the rating before you buy something. But I also want to focus here on the middle part, because the middle part is very interesting. There's a couple of reveals in there that will make things awesome. And I had to, during interviews, I had to actually say something to Seb and to Jorg about this beautiful feature. Take a look at this. I've zoomed in. Rent an item for limited periods of time. What we saw on the presentation was like 1 day, 3 day. 1 day was $1.99 with the option to purchase for a discounted price. Gift an item or virtual currency to a friend. Stream content upon rental or purchase right away without having for it to completely download. Kind of amazing when you see that. The whole rent and gift thing, amazing. So I just want to start with this start screen here, and you can see that on the left side here, and I'm just going to turn to the screen and talk about it. I am recording this in 4K, so you'll see this overlaid on my video here. But you can see at the very top we got World Photographer. You'll see this in the bigger screen that I'll show you. Activities, Challenge League, Career, and I think a lot of people will pick Career or we'll go straight to Free Flight, which is what I'm going to do here. And then Marketplace. I'm going to go into, just to show you activities. Let's go on there. You can see we're used to this kind of screen already where we had a few of these types of, beautiful pictures with what the actual activity was. The flight training, in here the rally race, you can see low altitude. This is actually a CF-18 going through the Grand Canyon, where we were just there in a Humvee recently, and we'll be going in a helicopter later on today. Here's precision landing, and this is certainly an area that excites me too, because I've been doing my helicopter series on Udemy, and I've been also doing some Twitch streams on the helicopter series. So this is going to be awesome. These different areas. I'm not going into those at the moment. It depends how much time I have and how much footage I can actually film here. But I'm going to go into Free Flight and just see what that looks like. This is where most of us would go most of the time. All right. First thing I notice in the bottom right here is the EFB, right? The electronic flight bag. All right. This is an important part of it. And in here you can start looking at all of these. I'm not going to go through them at the moment. I want to see how much filmage I can actually keep before I have to be very careful about. Here's a normal Cessna 172, which we use in flight training all the time. I use it in my beginner, intermediate, and my advanced training on Udemy. And you notice that, they got to have a 172. They got to have all of the trainer aircraft here, of course. One thing I'm going to jump straight into is I'm going to go try to find a helicopter. Now, a lot of you will be interested in this screen here. You'll see it in 4K because they're recording it in 4K for me right now. But what we're going to be looking for here is, all right, how do we find what we're looking for here? Obviously, it's got the 172 highlighted because that's what we saw on our first screen. But we can go over here and just sort by. What are we sorting by? And here it's got range, altitude, name, payload, and speed. But over here, we can just go into the different categories. All, airplane, helicopter, glider, lighter than air, and marketplace. Now, we had a good taste already of the different gliders that will be available. I don't see them all here. So, Gotfriends and others talked about, Working Title talked about, certainly Jorg talked about how many new planes will be here and the different categories of the sim. So we'll bring that detail to you also. There's so much to talk about. What I'm going to do is just go straight to helicopters, see what they have available to us. And you can see in here, the Cabri G2 is here still, so from Asobo Studio, which I used for my helicopter series. One of the reasons I picked that helicopter, it is a training helicopter, but it's also the helicopter that is in all the versions of the sim. Everybody has this without going to buy a helicopter. Otherwise, if we had to buy a helicopter to learn with my series, then I would have gone with the Robinson line, which is the most common. Robinson R22 is the most common training helicopter of all. So I can't find an R22 yet. This is what's available to me. But take a look at this, the Sky Crane. This is a unique looking baby, this one here, the H125. And then, of course, the Chinook. This is actually a Miltech or Blackbird, simulation. So let's take a helicopter out to the Grand Canyon. This is where we are right now, physically, at the Grand Canyon. And later on, we're going to be going out in a helicopter. I'll give you some of that footage also. But what's really important here is what the simulator looks like. Here we see us lifting off with the H-125. This is the Grand Canyon area. Not too far up ahead there. You'll see the rim already. We're heading over to the rim, and we're going to drop right into the Grand Canyon just to see what it looks like. I'll toggle between inside and outside views just so you get an idea what the sim looks like. For many of you, this is the first view of the new flight simulator. Nice and smooth, lots of great graphics. We've done nothing to these machines. We haven't tweaked them. We haven't done anything special. This is just the way it is, and we're here to take a test flight. And this is our first look at it, and we haven't adjusted anything. You can see here the HUD shows you, your heads-up display shows you the vital information, just like normal. This one happens to be a helicopter with a sprayer on it, and you'll notice that there is a button in the middle there for actually turning on the sprayer. I never did get the urge to do that. I really wanted to just get to the canyon and go take a look at what it looks like. Let me point out a few things on our way there. This is the normal road to the southern rim. We took the Humvees along this road and took some photographs along the way. Let me point out a couple of things that are very important. First of all, from Jorg, he mentioned in his presentation that there are 11 million users of the current flight simulator. 1.5 million of them are 1.3 to 4 million of them are core simmers. Core simmers could be people like me who use it for flight simulation testing. I have a pilot's license and I teach lessons on flight, and I need to have a simulator with proper flight dynamics. So I would consider myself a core simmer, and we probably are the ones who also buy a lot of hardware to simulate as close as possible. Then you'll notice that those are the core simmers, and the rest are, there are some who are gamers, some who are looking for a challenge, and this is why we'll see a category in here even for career. And there are some who want that, have demanded that. And so there's such a variety of users in the sim that we want it to still be a serious simulator, but Microsoft has stated they also want to give us some challenges that we can go. And one of those challenges would be type certification in the career section. Another one would be, of course, activities where you have objectives and you get points. As we head towards the rim here, and as we head over top of the canyon, you're going to see quite a view, and that's what we're after, going to see that view. So you heard about, I think they recorded recently something like 1 billion sim sessions have already been recorded or are logged by Microsoft. Well, that's pretty cool when you see those kind of statistics. So we want to be able to also talk about some of the other things that we'll get to, and we'll put up some bullets for that too. And one of those things as we go along are some of the photometric lighting, which is going to be really cool to see. We can't try everything though, and that's the thing that kind of bothers me, is that we couldn't try everything. Let's have a look here as we head out over the cliff. And let's take that look over the cliff, and look at that. And it really is like this in real life. We take that, take your breath away kind of look. Let's go to the outside view at some point here. We want to just go take a look and see how it looks from the outside, and that gives you a bigger view. In fact, when I fly from the outside view, I don't even have the heads-up display information there. I want to see the whole screen. I want to see that scenery. Now, in flight training for helicopters and for fixed-wing airplanes, for flight training, we all do VFR flight. It's only near the end. Look at that deep descent. It's only near the end of your training or after you get your pilot's license that you'll actually pursue IFR or flying without reference to the outside. So we want the scenery to be correct. It's only those who actually take off in airliners that will want the airport to be perfectly accurate, and they'll want certainly the wind and the flight dynamics to be perfectly accurate, and they're not so concerned with the ground. Now, the sim will only load what you need. As I'm getting closer around these areas and for a certain distance, it's pulling in all that high-res stuff. It's not storing it all on my computer, and that's a radical departure from what we already have in the sim today. And so that's beautiful. When I look around here, these are similar to some of the pictures that I've already taken. Here we're diving in deeper. We're heading straight down to the canyon. We couldn't do this in the real helicopter. You can't go this low, but we certainly can here in the sim. And I'm following the Colorado River now and going up to some of the areas that we saw in real life. And that's what is really important here, is to be able to see it in real life from a helicopter and then come into the sim and see how close it is. And that's really what we were impressed with when we were messing around with this. I have also taken a fixed wing plane out of Toronto Island Airport, and I'll show you that clip later. So this is some of the things we wanted to show you, just so you can see how it looks and how beautiful it is. Up ahead, you can see there's an actual bridge. We actually saw that with binoculars from the outer rim up top. And so, you know, here we see it in real life. There are actually 4 versions too, by the way. So the 4th version, as you guys can guess, as you get up with each version, the 4th version has all the airplanes, all the airports, everything. I want to mention too, here's one of the most important parts while we take a look at this bridge as we're coming closer here. One of the most important parts is a complete aerodynamic solution that we have here. Multi-threaded. This is so important. Now, they showed us a presentation where they talked about how it does that. They also showed us a part of that presentation on fetching data from the internet, and how even the airplane model has to come from the internet, which we're guessing will work really well in multiplayer. You won't have to own the airplane to see it. Wake turbulence, holy moly. Wake turbulence can stay there for 2 to 6 minutes, which is in real life, that's true in calm winds. There is a 2-minute wake turbulence wait that I have to do on a 172. If any plane takes off ahead of me, I do have to wait the compulsory 2 minutes, and that now takes effect. Now, Seb gave us a great demonstration of that, and I'll see what I can capture or how much information they're going to give to us. And it's very accurate. So the flight model, they've increased the number of points that they measure on an airplane. Measuring, you know, seeing the downwash simulation that they showed us, unbelievable. So some of this stuff we're going to get into and go see it. Right now I'm just traveling up the Colorado River and looking up, and you can see the resolution looks great. I hope that that impresses you also. Certainly on the bigger screen in front of us, this thing was beautiful. Now this is 4K captured video, separate from my actual session. This is me flying, but I mean, this is a separate capture that they did just for us so we could take it home with us. And so, and that's what you're seeing here, instead of just taking my video camera and trying to capture that screen. So beautiful stuff. I mean, that's just one area of the sim, and certainly one of the reasons we did it was the excitement of actually being here at the Grand Canyon and taking a helicopter ride and a Humvee ride and just seeing what it's like. Honestly, I would have wanted just the helicopter ride, leave the Humvee ride alone, and just spend more time in the sim. We really only got in the total equivalent of about 2 hours in the sim. So one of those hours I spent configuring and playing with helicopters, and the other hour I spent testing some things and seeing how it goes. So you're not going to see much footage this time, but hopefully they'll give us more B-roll and more footage that we can use in the sim. Maybe I'll just put it down over here somewhere on this little plateau. This is actually an area that we did see from binoculars from the rim. We stepped out of the Humvee, went over to the edge and used our binoculars, and we right up ahead there. And we just saw this platform here that I'm about to attempt to land on. So, you know, I'll cut away from this for now, but now we'll go and show you some more things, interviews, etc. And let's go there and see that. What type of improvements are being done to improve model matching? Or is that probably
Tons.
tons?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, what happened in 2020, we had like random generic models, right?
Right.
And
Well, they default to Bonanza, or they default to
yeah, it
airline or
was just
something.
a disaster. Like, I mean, it had something to do with memory. Actually, it had something a lot to do with previous question. When you have limited memory, you can do less stuff,
Right.
right?
I
So
understand that.
the issue was we couldn't have all these planes because they were all sitting there in memory, and it was eating up bandwidth essentially. And so what we did instead is we modeled. Now I took FlightAware. I actually asked FlightAware to give me all the flights for a year, and I looked at every model of every plane that flew. I had all the numbers, right? So and then I looked at which planes do we have, which ones we don't have. Most of them we didn't have. And when you look at the airliners, we had like this generic airliner thing, one was wide body and one was narrow body. And I'm like, what the hell are these things?
So
They're like,
what you were
they're kind
talking
of like
about in your
nothing.
presentation, right?
Yeah.
You or Seb were talking about that. Now.
Yeah, so it's like we made like, I don't even know what the number is, 400, I don't know, 500 models that are actually accurate. They're all traffic. So in traffic now we have all the traffic model matching going on, and that's 91%
So
right
you don't
now.
have to own it to see it in the sim and multiplayer.
That's correct. So now it's like, for example, Piper. We just signed. I think we're signing Piper this week. As a matter of fact, Piper has a shit ton of planes. Like there's 2.5 million flights a year as Pipers. We had none of them. We had like generic piston something or another, right? Now we have the actual Pipers.
Awesome.
So
That's great
you
to
will
hear.
see a lot
Gonna
more
love to hear
accuracy.
this answer.
Oh yeah.
And I saw the graphic where the airplanes weren't being pulled from. It was only scenery, I think, in your new model, or sorry, in the old model, the scenery is being pulled as it's needed, but the airplanes weren't.
That
And
was
now
the
I saw
problem.
that picture graphic where you were showing the arrow going up, saying even airplanes now are being pulled too, right?
Everything is
Yeah.
just about everything.
That's cool.
That is how we can afford this, but otherwise we couldn't do it. Like it doesn't fit on people's machines.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Second big question I was been asked over the years and keeps coming back at me was, instead of taking screenshots, a lot of my viewers and even some of my developers who are on stream with me, they take a screenshot of the graphic settings on their screen before they change something because they're afraid of wrecking it. And if they wreck it, what was it before, and they can't go back? They're saying, is there going to be presets? I haven't found this upstairs yet. When I only had an hour so far, and is there going to be presets? For instance, a GA plane in VFR would want that mesh. They would want that the GA planes, but and they're going to be on the ground in near airports. But maybe there's a preset they can change, and then now they're flying airliners and they only care about. I'm just saying generally they only care about maybe the destination and the origin airport.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
That's
like so they don't have to go in and tweak this and move that and get that mesh down and or change the. I don't need to have high res buildings now. Like they go in and they tweak a lot, and then they got to look at a picture they took to see if I got it the way I used to.
You don't need to do it anymore. That's the thing. Like
so even now in 2020, you're saying we don't need to do that, or are you saying?
I think what used to not be good is when you flew towards Frankfurt or Charlie de Gaulle Airport or something. You hit a certain range, and at that point, it fetched the models.
Right.
But you couldn't even see anything. Right. You're like 30 miles out
Still
or whatever
too
the heck it is. Far too far. But at some point, we have to load something. So that set then residently in your memory, and you might have never even seen any of these models. You might have just flown by and drive off, but it still hits your memory. The architecture now is it only fetches what you need at the LOD that you need it at. So there's no point. Like, why would you turn anything off? You don't even see anything.
You don't need a preset
because it will not load anything.
Wow. Actually, I like that.
It's awesome.
That's great to hear.
Oh yeah, it's one of the big benefits.
That's a good clarification.
Yeah,
that's something people keep. That's the thing that slows them down.
Exactly.
I
mean, performance.
Tinker all this tinkering.
50 frames a second, fully cranked up. Like
right. That's awesome.
It's super optimized now, and it's needed, right? Because people keep, as I tried to say earlier, like they want to keep creating, and we want them to keep creating, and then you need to basically just protect them from ruining the sim experience for everybody, and that's what we've done.
I want to say, it's not a question, I want to say the rental thing, I mentioned it to Seb too. The rental thing, oh my God, that's a beautiful feature.
I know.
The gifting
that
thing.
was my idea.
Those two things, the gifting thing too.
Oh my God, I can't tell you the story.
People want to rent before they buy.
I rent movies. Oh my God, you
rent a movie, you're disappointed.
I know.
Right?
I rent a movie because I don't want to. I'm like, is it any good? I have no idea. I pay $5. And nothing pisses me off more than I like the movie and it's $20, and then they charge me $20. I'm like, you guys, seriously? Like, and I have plenty of money. I'm like, I still
it's good you experienced that because that's going to benefit all of us,
so,
right?
I mean, it's just fairness.
Yeah.
So basically, if you rented it, it's a certain. I think they've limited by how long it can be forever or whatever, right? But within the time frame.
I thought it said 1 day, 3 days. I mean,
that's the duration.
And you know what? That's beautiful. If it's a complex plane, we might want 3 days, and we'll go crazy.
But that's not even what I mean. Like the thing, I think you'll like this. So basically, if you say you paid $5 to just rent it for 3 days, and the thing is 20, if you make the decision that you want to buy it, it shouldn't be 20. It should be 15. That's what we're doing.
That's the plan.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Because I will not accept this other thing, man. It makes me so angry.
Applause right there. Yeah, that's awesome. Here's something I wanted to ask. Side-by-side install. So many of my techies ask me that, right? Being an IT guy, they keep asking me because I advise them on where the community folder should be and what I give that advice. Question. Now they're saying, and I'll probably demonstrate that on my Twitch stream, is that can we install 2024? Now we're testing, now we're trying things, now we're having fun, we're doing.
Yeah.
can we still go back to 2020 on the same machine, or do we need 2 boxes?
I think you can, but I mean, we're working with third party, like all the external teams are kind of in that situation right now, right? They're not at Asobo, they're not actually compiling the base sim. They get just a build, and I think it works, but I'm honestly not the right guy to ask.
Okay.
I would highly recommend asking Seb that.
Okay. What kinds of requests have you been asked for 2024 that surprised you, completely blindsided you? It was like, oh, never thought of that. Is that something you can share with us?
From the community?
Got to be something. Yeah.
What have they asked that I thought was crazy? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's the summary. Yeah. Maybe that's one for over drinks.
I mean, I would so I can tell you there's an ask. It's in our feedback snapshot, which I write every week, almost every week, and it says I miss trains, and I look at it often, and I'm like, it's a much harder.
Big improvement lets us do much more detailed hydraulic system, fuel systems, electrical systems. They can just be much more advanced. And we can hook those into the avionics to get sort of even more realistic depictions. And then, the flight model stuff that's been improved obviously helps aircraft a lot as well. One of the real big things we wanted to do that we got to do with this release is by introducing the activities in the career, we were able to create a learning path for more simmers to become those core simmers. For us, like Jorg said in the presentation, maybe like 4 million, 4 million, something like that. Maybe about a third of the audience is currently core simmers. They're, either flying really hardcore bush aircraft, or they're flying the Phoenix or PMDG, right? They're flying their airliners. And then they've got another 10 million that are not. And I would like nothing more than for that group to grow. And for that to happen, they need a way to get educated and learn and more activities. That was a big reason we wanted to bring the flight planning into the simulator, so that there wasn't such a barrier, right? Because now you either know to go use some of those outside tools or you don't. And if we've got that whole process built into the sim, then we make that transition and that learning process that much easier for more people. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many new systems that are going to help the avionics too, and we love the opportunity to build new avionics. So the UNS is all new, the Primus Epic's all new. We've got planes that go with both of those. So I think simmers are really going to enjoy that. And then we've got even more airliner systems. We did the 737 MAX and 747-400. So those are, I'm sure we'll see modding teams using the 747-400 quickly. So
cool. So it's like a path. You're starting with a Cessna 172 or whatever,
right?
And then you go your way until you feel ready or not. If you like, you can fly the 747.
Yeah.
And it's so the standards you want to achieve are pretty high, obviously. So what would you say compared to something like the Phoenix A320? How near can you get to this level?
Well, I don't want to compare with a particular product. What I'll say is that I think when you look at the avionics packages that we've built, they include almost every feature and function that those real world systems use. I know that, I think that's the answer. I think as far as we're concerned, there aren't any, I flew the Vision Jet a couple days ago, and the pilots of the Vision Jet had flown the sim as well. And they sort of agreed that everything that they've got in the Vision Jet, we've got in our G3000 as well. So
that's really cool that the simulator is enhancing to a point where you guys can say that whatever you are, a new simmer or a core simmer or whatever you are, you can start, you can look at the tutorial, but if you want to have it all in detail, you can go for it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They approach the word study level then, right? People use that word.
They do.
Religiously. It's like, is it study level or not? Just tell me that, right? And this is what they ask me as a trainer. Is it study level or not? And you can't use that word too easily, or else they'll prove you wrong, right? So what we find, and I've been focusing some of my lessons on Twitch on my Tuesday lesson night, been focusing on the working title products, and I've done the G3X and I've done the G1000, of course, and I've done each of those sessions, which are very popular. And I have to tell them, here's what it looked like before, here's the WT version. And when you start it up, now you can see there's a startup screen like you should have. Now you see the WT screen. It says the version too, so check that. I tell people this, that's helping them on board with why it's better, and the difference between the two is a good comparison, right? So going forward, that's all there is in there. Maybe, I think that's all there is in there is WT stuff. That's a good thing to tell them. Don't even worry about whether you got the good stuff or not. So, we are appreciating what you guys are doing for sure. Because people I have a lot of people who are pilots, student pilots learning, and they're transitioning on my Udemy courses, they're transitioning from real to practicing at home. And if it doesn't work the same as real, then they just say crap, and they'll go to explain, or they'll go just not practice, right?
And they will be frustrated pretty fast, right?
Right. It worked last night in the sim. I don't know why it's not working in the real plane. It's like, we don't want to hear that. That kind of thing, right?
For sure, yeah.
And when it comes to the gliders, is it the same?
I was just going to ask that. I was going to move over to Gotfriends here and just ask about the gliders.
Yeah,
Gliding community is crazy, right?
It's huge, and they want me to do stuff with that, and I'm not the expert on that. So I got to bring glider pilots into my sessions and say, let's start using, since 2024 is released, let's do it then, right? I don't know if we should wait till then. I think we should wait till then.
I feel like gliding is pretty good in 2020. Gliding is incredible in 2024. And it is, like you said, a very niche community, and kind of a community that not necessarily has been able to be completely heard at times. And I feel like what 2024 is doing, they're absolutely hearing the community. They're bringing developers like us who are part of that community in, so that we can address some of those core issues that they wanted. So they definitely have improved the flight models, they've improved the weather, if you've seen. Just the fidelity of the new ground detail as well improves how that all interacts together with the airframe. And so, I mean, that alone is a huge step forward. And then they're bringing us in to kind of bring some new avionics to gliders that weren't really mainstream to begin with, and they work hand in hand with their technology as well, so that it kind of works between introduction if you're a beginner, or if you're someone who's more of an expert and you want to start controlling all the barometer settings. You only want to hear positive, negative, change frequencies, you want to do some thermal tracking. We're adding a lot of deep stuff in there as well, so that people can appreciate the system depth of it, and if you're one of those glider guys that all you do is play flight sim for gliders.
Glider guy, that's the term. That's all we'll call it from now on. Oh, you're a glider guy.
Yeah, that's all you do. So some people are like that. That's all they buy the sim for, so they can fly some gliders around, and I feel like they're in for a big treat on this one.
I've been asked to do that, and I said I can't. That's not what I fly. Fixed wing air, and helicopters. So you've got two of them coming out that we saw in your presentation, which is awesome. Awesome to see that. And one of the reasons I think both of those, some people have flown them and they want those, or the other case is they actually like the fact that they aren't just a glider. That scares a lot of people if they don't have someone to teach them properly, so they'll never touch gliders, right?
Yeah,
they're worried about the fact that there's no engine. What if I'm putting it down in the Grand Canyon, I'm heading down to the Colorado River now? I'll never get out of there, right? You can put the motor on and go, right? And I think a lot of people want that feature.
Well, I think that bringing motor gliders too, I mean, that's like a kind of a new genre that really wasn't explored too much in 2020, right? And so it's really cool to see that. And something like the STEMI too, that's like the top of the line luxury glider experience. So bringing that to the sim,
it's great. You got
incredible.
The contrast there. You got the two of them that some people will go straight to the luxury one. They want to
correct.
Give me all the features, right?
Yeah, because even though that glider's not meant to be, it's not rated to be a pure navigation like autopilot and GA, it's not nav rated. It's still just a glider at the end of the day. However, it has all the tools and systems required in there that you can do that. And that's how they've kind of designed it in real life as well. That it's kind of like an introduction into kind of a safety net, right? It's an 18-meter glider. It's very luxury. It's used for long touring. It has all the tools necessary for any pilot to really know where they're at all times. It's a very comforting glider, and that comes with the price tag at the end of the day.
Are you able to combine the flight planning feature with gliding?
Yeah, and that's what we're working on right now. Okay. So the flight plans that are created, we're able to turn those into common glider tasks.
Yeah,
really?
So then
Nice.
it absolutely works the way you would think it does. It takes you to the gateway. Okay. It takes you at the altitude. Once you're at the altitude and all that, you know. Then you pass the gateway, it gives you the good beep, and then gives you the waypoint, and it's constantly monitoring your thermal tracking and your time management. So it's doing everything that a lot of these glider communities were really kind of hoping for with an avionics system. And overall, it's a beautiful thing. And the guy who made that for us was Ian Lewis. And if you're aware of his freeware gliders as well, the AS33 and stuff.
Oh yes, yeah.
He's kind of the powerhouse behind those new avionics. So
Cool.
He's one of the big kind of key guys in that niche community, and so I know they're going to be really excited to hear that he was involved in that.
So Brendan, if I might ask, what other projects we haven't heard about in the presentation that you guys have in the back burner, or plans that you got for 2024 that, wow, this came out from Gotfriends or this came out from WT that we didn't hear about in our presentation now, but you guys are working on it and hoping to make deadline. Is that something you can share?
Well, I believe that for the most part, everything that has been revealed to you guys during that presentation is what is for sure coming to the game. I don't think there's going to be any additional content or any hidden things that, that nature. That's a question definitely for Jorg and Seb. Nothing in my wheelhouse that I would know. Okay. As far as what we're working on in the future, these are questions that our team's definitely been thinking about. Nothing I'm ready to share yet, but we do have some projects going in the background.
I thought I'd try anyway.
We're able to kind of see, the sim in a little bit of an earlier state than most developers out there, and that's definitely tailoring how we're going to kind of move forward in the future with Microsoft and for ourselves. So
cool. And what would you say? How much changed for you as a developer, the Flight Simulator 2024 and the key features that come with it? How much improvement is there in comparison to 2020 when it comes to
massive
flight? But I remember talking to my community and they told me I did this flight here in 2020 and the aerodynamics were not perfectly fine.
Right. Heard that.
And I was I thought it would be perfect.
Yeah.
Because I was flying through it, and I never flew a glider. I'm just on I'm a pilot for jets, so it's in the air. It happens what happens. So it's not so interesting for me when it comes to the very small and detailed movements of the air and everything. And they were not happy at all.
It's a very fluid question, if we're going to be honest. It kind of goes along that line of the study level question you asked earlier, where who is the best person to say that this is accurate?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's very fluid. It comes down to some people who have not flown that glider type, but maybe they've flown a glider, or people that have never flown gliders, but they have hundreds of hours or thousands of hours in just fixed wing with an engine, right? And so it's a very fluid thing. So how do we, basically, I know what you're going to ask, how do we approach that then at building a platform? Exactly. Yeah. And I think the best method is so we utilize the new CFD and the new flight model that they bring into the new sim, the virtual wind tunnel per se, right? Yeah. And we ensure that all the mathematics are directly aligning with the manufacturer's mathematics to the decimal. Yeah. So if something has a 42.72 glide ratio, we're going to make sure that has a 42.72 glide ratio. Nice. If there's an aileron that has 125 inches surface area, we're going to the exact. Yeah. So, and then we test that in the sim, which is most important. So after we make all these measurements and do everything digitally within the code base, we ensure that we're definitely turning the weather to clear skies, nothing, no wind, nothing, and we're just gliding and making sure everything is 100% lining up.
Like a certification flight.
Yeah. So we're doing kind of that test manufacturer cert flights in flight sim to make sure that it is aligning with the manufacturer's expectations. Yeah. Cool. So at the end of the day, we're really happy with how they turned out. Is it subjective to some people out there that have different experience? Absolutely. Right. We can't 100% get things accurate. I mean, we're getting really close. 2024 looks absolutely gorgeous. The flight model is the best I've ever seen. So we're getting there, but I mean, it's definitely a very fluid topic.
So on that topic of the flight model, that was one of the biggest dents in 2020 from the X-Plane community, from those of us who have used every sim along the way, since 1982, we've used every sim. And that's still when people say to me, oh, you're only using MSFS 2020? I go, yeah, for everything. What about the flight model? It's always, even today, even after all these updates that they've done, it's still the issue. So I think moving to 2024 and making it a whole new sim is going to blow away that stigma about, you got the pretty sim, but you don't have the accurate sim. and we're going to bring over a lot of X-Plane users now.
Well,
So
yeah.
I think that's what you guys are going to see, is that where did all these people come from? They came from another sim.
And from when it comes to the gliding community, they had another sim.
Yeah,
they were
right.
not using Explain. They had a sim that is 15 years old or
Yeah.
something like that. So that's
Yeah.
that's interesting as well. Sorry.
So you guys prepared for that influx, right? With the X-Plane users that now accept the flight model?
Yeah,
Because it's finally
definitely,
accurate?
I definitely want to say something to Microsoft's benefit is they design all these within that certain SDK parameters so that it's easier for aircraft developers to create content, right? And so by improving the flight model the way they've done, it allows for easier transfer of the mathematics, like I was talking about, between manufacturer and aircraft developer,
Right.
so that there's less worry work involved and so that it is more accurate at the end of the day. But something I definitely want to point out is it's really dependent too on the people making the content as well. Like you could have a developer that doesn't even put any care into the flight model. It's not going to fly
We've seen that.
100% accurate, right? So there is a two-way street where Microsoft's definitely done their job on improving the flight model, making it easier for us to take advantage of. And now it's the developers who are making the aircraft. They need to put that care as well in to make sure that all the parameters they feed into it are accurate, or else it's just not going to do
That's
exactly what you think. So as long as both parties are doing an accurate job, it's going to be a phenomenal experience. And I can tell you from our standpoint, everything we've done, we've put in real extreme care into it.
So we can tell.
For one more question. Okay.
You got another one? I could ask.
Yeah, you can go.
So in my community, they do ask about the accuracy of the different models, and they're asking what can be done that's better. And hearing this already about the flight models, that's the biggest core issue for most people, is that flight model. But the developers are the ones who actually tell us the limitations. And I have a close relationship with a lot of the developers. You know, the Wombies and the Seb from Coxburg, and all these guys come on my stream all the time.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they say, well, we can't do that because of the limitation of the sim. And then when it came to helicopters before the 40th anniversary, we can't do that because of the limitation of the sim. It was always their answer when there was something that wasn't exactly right by people who know these planes. And so now we can actually never hear that again, or very rarely hear that again, if this is the way it seems. Being able to plug in manufacturer specs and make that happen,
Yeah. Well,
that's big. That's like
yeah.
big jump.
And something I do kind of want to point out is in Microsoft 2020, some of the times that us developers had to stand out is going through custom solutions and things. Like you were
Right.
saying, kind of working around the
Like the
solution,
helicopter
limitation.
software to make
So,
the engine work
yeah.
before we had 40th. Right?
Same with kind of like some of these bigger aircraft with electrical failures or wear and tear. These were all like custom solutions that took a very long time for a developer to figure out.
Right.
Now that these things are becoming base game standard, like they are available tools there to take advantage of. Will every developer take advantage of wear and tear and the brand new electrical problems and things like that? Probably not. Some people just want to put a simple add-on in there, call it a day, and they're just happy with the work they've done. But for those developers that really want to put more depth into their aircraft, these new optional new features are really truly going to make a huge difference. No more custom coding. I mean, there's going to definitely be a lot of custom coding still happening, but like these things are now base game, and they make it so much easier for us to add these things for
And
just
we
an
all
all-around
benefit
work.
from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
That was a great
I know
interview.
we're running out of time. He's being very subtle, but I can tell, right? Yeah.
Amazing story, by the way. Pretty cool.
Well, thank you.
And now we move over to some more live footage here. This is the startup for the sim. And you see at the bottom right there, you can see two things there. One of them actually says start setup. This will be for the first time. By the way, balloons, yeah, I'm excited about that. We're going to have a real balloon pilot come on my Twitch stream and give us a hand learning how to manage them now that they're even more realistic. These are just the cut scenes. You've seen some of these before in their previews and their teasers. And here I've just said start setup. And you can see in here all assets or all assists or default assists. Just have to read the screen. And you can see in here these are presets. These are very similar to what we did when we went into the assistance section. And in here you can see that 3 of them are on there for helicopters, helicopter assisted. All right, and that's a good thing to do when you're first learning helicopters, as I have been teaching in my Udemy courses. Now, customized identity, this is new, and it's new for this sim. As you can see in here, you can pick every single part of your pilots that you want to put in there. Now this is similar to what we've had with the buddies and the streamers and companions and all that inside the Gotfriends streamers collection. And I'm lucky enough and honored enough to be able to be included in that, but they had to actually take pictures of us, and then they turned around and modeled it for us, and then they put them out there as avatars. Here you can actually pick every single thing, from voice to every single piece of clothing and hair, eyes, whatever. So I'm in there just experimenting, looking around, seeing what it's all about. I've seen these in other programs before, but that's really cool that we have it there in case you want to put somebody that looks like you or somebody that looks like someone you know, and then put them in the aircraft with you. Really nice feature. I won't stay in here too long. I'll probably just move on to the next one in a minute, and then we'll go take a look at some more options here. So there it goes, and now I just hit continue, and away I go. Welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Now I've shown some of this in brief to start with, and I went into free flight. That's what I did first. Actually, I did Marketplace and free flight at the start of this series, this very first reveal. Now I'd like to go into the career mode and just see what's in there, and also we could go into Challenge, League, and Photography. Those are two areas that, three areas that we haven't actually touched yet. This is our normal start screen now, and from here we'll make our selection like I did earlier. Now with activities selected, we can pick a number of activities: flight training, rally race, low altitude, precision landing, and there are more if we scroll across. And this is similar to what we already have. You'll notice in the low altitude one that we've got, looks like an F-18 flying through the canyon, the same canyon we saw live when we were out there in a helicopter. Also, you'll notice in the Grand Canyon we have some pylons to fly through, which is going to make it a lot easier for us. Right down there, nice and low by the Colorado River. It's going to be fun. I won't go into any of the activities right now. What we will do is go into free flight, go take a look from there. You saw a couple of snapshots of this already. You saw me flying around Toronto Island Airport. There's the EFB. I'm not going to dwell on that. I think I've already shown that to you. So we're just going to move over to another area.
I mean, it was coming for formation flights a lot because you didn't feel anything. It was also a personal thing. I think on my third year of flying, I flew into my own wake, and I was really scared. I did a turn, and most of the time you don't, right? Because it goes away, it goes up, it goes down. There's wind, there's something, and it's really happened to me not over the first 2 years. And then all of a sudden I flew into my own wake, and it really like instant. I mean, it's very short, right? So it doesn't really, but the moment it happens, it's like is there someone? What's going on? And so that was also a personal thing. And I think it's important in terms of, you keep learning at big airports. Be careful. I once with an instructor, we were landing on final. Everything was fine. Everything was nice. The airport was 20 seconds away, perfect flight, and a helicopter just, like, this is the runway helicopter does. And so we went like, oh, and we just like,
Yep. That's what I
didn't
wanted.
even try to get into it, nothing.
I was going to mention that because I do teach helicopters and fixed wing, and we're always taught about wake turbulence and the wait time and all that. Now I want to show that in the simulator.
Yeah.
I want that. And so that we do the wait, but in the simulator, I'm actually going to pull out behind someone who took off just now and see what happens to a fixed wing. Do the helicopter across the runway and show them what actually happens. That's what sims are for.
Even since that is active on the helicopter, if you do hovering for, without that, the hovering is very almost the same, right? Once you put the helicopter in a state, okay, it does that. But with the wake turbulence enabled, you start moving around a bit, and all of a sudden you run into your own, and then it starts doing a little bit of this. You don't know why, or a little bit of this, and sometimes the wind blows it away, then it's gone, and then the wind stops, and then again, and then it's a little bit more chaotic. Mm-hmm. It's not a huge effect for a helicopter when it impacts itself, but it's always this little, you can't really, you can't really put the yoke into into one or the collective into one position and say, oh, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because at some point the wake is gonna come, and then no, it's not fine anymore. And that's what I found. I mean, I took a few helicopter lessons, I think 3 times, and even when the instructor flies on the Cabri on the tarmac, not much wind, it's still a lot of moving around, right? Because it's not a stable situation. So I think it has been requested, right? And I think it was the big missing piece of aerodynamics that we didn't have, and we wanted it to be something. So it was a big undertaking because it was almost impossible, right? How can you do a CFD that is this large and this for this long time? But if we had not done it this way, it would not have been realistic for helicopters, because you can maybe simulate a wake turbulence, I don't know, by drawing a line along the wings and doing a little circle or something. That would have been super cheap to do and easy. But okay, how do you then do a wake generated by just let's say an engine and when I mean in my aero club, when you do the engine tests on the taxiway, everybody always goes like this, right? To not to not blow the engine into the guy behind. And so I mean, there's many ways where you experience the airflow generated by an aircraft. And I think it's important that it's not just something which works only on takeoff and so yeah, a helicopter which does just a little bit of hovering over my runway, it's gonna leave a lot of stuff, right? Yeah. And so we really wanted to have the real thing that works for helicopters. And someone even asked 2 days ago when I wrote it, hey, can we have wake also on big boats? I said, I didn't even think of it, but it's very easy to add because the system can do anything.
Wow, that's impressive.
Fluid dynamics, right?
Yeah. Just put I mean, whatever, right?
Yeah. So the moment you talked about earlier from the flight lessons, when you do 360 and you feel your own wake turbulence,
that's awesome.
Possible in the simulator, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And so there's right now a display which I showed. That's more like the dev display. We're thinking. I mean, I hope it would be finished by the time we release. But we are thinking of having something more like the green lines, because it's all the same then. And I want to have assistance where you see maybe like something which is more like a warning sign, like a red area in the world, which dissipates when the wake is gone, that's less to understand how it works. It's really only to see where it is and to avoid it when you take off.
Colors, I thought I saw red in your demonstration.
That was just the smoke. That was the smoke thing.
Oh,
what you saw behind is really just a raw display of the physics, like speed vectors, where you see we put little particles in to show what it does. So, but I mean, when you want to avoid it, you don't really care about what it does. You just want to know where it is and when it's gone. That's what's really important. And sometimes the wind blows it away, and so you don't have to wait at all, right? But sometimes it doesn't, and so.
I remember a situation. I went to the DLR in Germany, Deutsches Zentrum für Luft- und Raumfahrt. And they are developing something for the navigation display for the Airbus aircraft, or for Boeing as well, where you can see exactly that an area behind an aircraft.
Oh, nice.
So with the ATSOL function in the Airbus aircraft, it's possible today that we can see medium, heavy, or so we see the wake turbulence category, and they are developing a feature for the navigation display that we can see. Depends on the weather, of course, like you said before. What's the wind like? They're developing an indication to show us where the wake turbulence of the aircraft are. Because I remember a situation, I was flying an A321, pretty heavy aircraft, but we were flying underneath a 777 from Emirates, and we had like about 25 degrees back in a second.
Oh yeah.
And so the autopilot, I was wondering, it just kept flying the aircraft, so it managed it, but it was very interesting to feel. To have this
it's what I heard is very often people say that in case of heavy turbulence, the best is just to leave the autopilot do its thing, right? Or in case of wake turbulence or so, it's usually better than the pilot what the pilot could maybe have done.
Yeah, because as a pilot you have a startle effect and you're like, oh shit.
And
the autopilot is just like, there's a deviation, so we go back.
It goes back, yeah.
So can I jump in with a couple of questions that I have. So
Of course.
Yeah.
I didn't know this would be a team thing. I thought we had exclusive for 20 minutes, right? So I had a few things here. One of them is the two main questions I have. One is about multiplayer. The other one is about what you talked about, the prefetch. I call it prefetch, where you're saying a lot more information comes from internet now, right, in the new sim. We've already noticed, I've noticed when I come to airports, sometimes there's a pause, another pause, and it freezes another pause. And I got a really good system. It's only near airport, so it's prefetching something about the airport, maybe the aircraft, maybe. That's in 2020. Is 2024 solve that kind of thing? And also when you talked about everything's coming down now, or probably a lot of things you said, right? So is that going to give us jitters? Is that going to cause us freezes? Is that going to, that kind of, is there going to be more of that? Because it's not available on the hard drive. So that's the one question I had. Is there something you've addressed there, or you've just in your test never found it?
So that's like 5 questions in one.
Okay, so sorry. So
which one do you want to have?
Okay, on the prefetches, have you seen there's no jitters? It's actually prefetching and you don't even notice. You don't notice it?
So pre-downloading or streaming is completely unrelated with jitters.
Okay.
Because it can happen in the background. Jitters happen when something is not coded in a way that stuff happens in the background, right? But sometimes you have sync points where a system waits for another, and so generally, there's a way to get rid of all the jitters, right? It's just a matter of optimizing systems and breaking these sync points, right? Saying, oh, how can I not wait for this at this moment, right? How can I continue my simulation and take the data when it's ready? And that's how we break the jitters or stuff like that. Sometimes jitters is caused by the system because it's still a PC. Maybe, I don't know, something in the background, email is coming.
Yeah. Could be something else your PC is doing.
So we can't control 100% of the jitters, but I admit many jitters are caused by our systems, which just for whatever reason wait instead of continuing and then until in 2024 we've taken a lot of systems and try to deconnect them so that they don't have to wait. Basically, that's we call it making asynchronous, right?
And I heard about your multi-threading too. A number of points you made about stuff that's multi-threading now.
We have multi-threaded, I would say pretty much maybe 50 systems or so, maybe more. Like the CFD is now multi-threaded. It's running on 20 cores. The surface simulation is multi-threaded. The weather is multi-threaded. The wake turbulence is multi-threaded.
Nice. That is awesome. People are going to love to hear that.
Yeah, and also in 2020 there was a sync point between CFD and flight model. So the CFD had to be finished before we were doing it basically in serial. I don't know how you call it, like one after the others. Yeah. Now the CFD is in parallel, and they sort of both finish at the same time, and it's on 20 cores. But yeah, jitters can come from loading an airport, loading an airplane, decompressing something. It could be anything, and so we're actively trying to address these. Okay. I hope you've seen that there's not too many.
That's what I'm testing so far. It's looking good so far, yeah.
There's still some, but...
So I don't want to run out of time here. This was the main question that I think I've been hearing from my Twitch stream for years now in the sim. And that is the multiplayer thing, which I know, of course, it's always been a question that comes up on your streams and stuff, right? So the few questions that I've pulled together to ask you about, players disappearing on each other when flying together. They just disappear. I mean, is that sort of thing not visible now in the sim? I can't test it upstairs. I can't get multiplayer going, right?
Okay.
So is that something you've addressed, like that you've heard about that problem, or is that something new in this that you're hearing now?
So personally, right now, I can tell you I have not. It's not on my radar.
Okay.
But the thing is, we have maybe thousands of issues, questions, remarks. So why that would happen is because the server sort of people send data to servers, and the servers decide to put people together, and then they send you stuff. And so when it disappears, could it be a server which decides that you should be with someone else? Could it be that somehow your data is not coming to the server and the connection can be interrupted? Wow. So I don't know why. Definitely, it's probably already somewhere in some forum has been brought up, right? So what we do in these cases, we try to find it. So once you reproduce it reliably, then you say, okay, what's happening? Why is it disconnecting? But the sim does not have one connection to one server. It has dozens of connections to dozens of servers, and you can very well have an interruption to the multiplayer server, and suddenly someone cannot see your plane anymore. While the weather's still
Or
working
even
and the
elastic
water's still
band, that
working.
happens, right? We're flying formation also, we're getting this.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
that's another thing.
Okay, so the multiplayer area, I know, that's why I wanted to jump in with my questions, but the multiplayer thing is the biggest issue in my streams and with everybody,
Okay.
right? So that's why I had to bring that to the table here, right? I wanted to ask you about that. Because, the
Yeah,
other one
everyone
too
has
was
the
about the
biggest
private
issue.
groups.
Yeah.
The private groups are like five people.
Mhm.
So we can't do the private group like with that air show we did on your stream. I did the first air show, the first year anniversary, but then Chunky did the second air show a year ago. And there were people coming in and bombing the air show because we had to go to a bigger multiplayer, the normal multiplayer, and people could just come in and just put their airliner on the runway while we're trying to do an air show. So is there any way we can not ban them but hide? I remember asking Jane this question, and can we just hide that guy that's bombing our whole stream and
So your
bombing
question is,
the whole air show?
everything is possible.
Yeah, can we?
I can't
There's
say
got to
that-
be a feature to say
I cannot say
that
this is not
guy is
possible.
intentionally
but,
trying to wreck our stream, especially when it's
Yeah.
Microsoft official doing
what
an
you
air
need
show.
to, what you
Can
need
we ban that, or not ban, I shouldn't use that word, because that's getting him off the system. Probably
Mhm.
can't do that. Can we just make that one plane disappear? Every time he comes in, we never see him now. That's a feature everybody would just cheer, right?
Okay.
I don't know. I just thought I'd mention
Yeah.
that, right?
It's strange that it didn't come up. But,
Yeah, that's mainly it, yeah.
okay.
The private groups being bigger than 5, I think they're 5 right now, if you make a private group.
Mhm.
If we could make it 20, all the guys with cameras and the guys in the show,
But 20, but you want to.
I'm just giving a
wanna ban
number,
people.
arbitrary,
But who should ban people?
no, but if it
You?
were the 20, in a private group, that would solve it in an air show event like that.
Okay, but you decided.
We only
to come
invite
in.
the 20 in, right? Like the camera people and the
Yeah.
people in the show. And then we're good, and we don't have all these people bombing or whatever.
Yeah.
That would solve it if we had that feature.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. It's okay. Can you explain to the community why we need like a new simulator right now? Why, from a physical standpoint of view or aerodynamic standpoint of view, why do we need Flight Simulator 2024 and not just make an update for 2020?
Yeah. So I can give you the technical explanation for that and exactly what you asked for. If you ask Jorg, he's gonna be addressing all the other reasons. But from a technical standpoint, when the way we work is we have requests from the community, ideas, wish lists, forums, and we try to run down the list of what people wanted. And some of the requests can be done in a few weeks, and then we can just stick them. We can test them easily. It doesn't make big changes, and we can just put them in an update. And so that's what we've been doing with many smaller things. And then there's requests which require basically to completely rework everything. Like, for example, hey, can we have smaller install times, loading times, and you need to rework the architecture from pretty much from scratch. On the terrain, hey, can we have more detail on the ground? You need to completely change. Basically, on 24, the terrain system is very different, right? So it's a change which took years to do, and it takes many months to develop. You have to completely change the servers. You have to completely change all the system, and that requires sort of technically it requires a long development time frame and to pretty much at some point be in a different how do we call that, maybe sandbox environment, right? To move everything into a different environment. And technically these kind of big changes are very difficult to do in an update, because you need to pretty much move everybody somewhere else. And the good thing technically with having a new version is that people can stay in the old one. Right? They can now have both 2020 and 2024. If you do an update, you force everybody into something new. And so that's my technical explanation. It's just that it's not feasible to have so big changes in an update. And maybe you can ask the same question later.
Yep, I will do.
Yeah.
And that's all from my side.
All right.
That's all from my side.
Yeah, and I will write down, now that we have 5 minutes, I will write down your comments, make sure these get addressed, and I think bigger multiplayer groups has already been on my list.
Nice to hear.
But the fact to banning or accepting, it's not the same thing, right?
Right.
Because if you create a group, you pretty much accept who you want, right?
Right,
So you
that's
don't
it.
have to ban.
So that's the solution. If we got the bigger groups, we don't have to worry about making planes disappear. We just invite those who we want in the system. Well, there you have it. The whole darn thing. Now, we couldn't dive in as much as we wanted to. One of the things I couldn't test was multiplayer. It was grayed out. And they're still working on that. They're going to make sure that works. We've heard so far that those flying the new sim in November won't be able to see those in the old sim in multiplayer. So, you know, we'll have to take a look at that. They've still got 2 months. They're still working feverishly on this. So we've covered a lot of ground here. There was a lot of material you didn't even get to see yet, and I had to try and fit it all into whatever time this ends up being, over an hour of stuff. That's a lot of stuff, and a lot happened in a single day. So I want to mention, more will come. I'll use more of my footage that I took. Microsoft will provide more for us that we can use, and more details will be revealed as they go along, and I'll certainly throw that together and take as long as it takes and get this out to you so that you can see what's new as we get up to this much anticipated and newly structured, newly built from the ground up simulator that we're all excited about. I'm excited about it. As a real pilot, now I can test things like, you know, that whole 2-minute wake turbulence wait. Oh, I can't wait to try this myself. And we can't wait to really ring this out when it comes to us. So stay tuned, you guys. Hit that like and subscribe if you think this is good content, something that you can use, and you'll be notified when I bring out the next. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for tuning in.